Hello, I'm Janice Molnar, Deputy Commissioner for the Office of Children and Family Services, Division of Child Care Services. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this webcast. These are times like no other. Governor Cuomo rightly included child care providers and staff among the state's essential workers. You are the stabilizing presence in the lives of so many families, each with their own story and you with yours, about the impact of the coronavirus during the past 2 months. Hope is sometimes hard to find, but even in the last gray days of winter, there were flickers of hope and resilience that let us all know that these days will pass and spring is here. We will get through this even stronger than before. And you are remarkable. Program enrollments are down, but commitment and caring have never been higher. As child care providers, you've continued your passionate dedication to the care of children and families. We've watched you adapt to these changing times with perseverance, grace, and innovation. At OCFS, we are your partners in addressing issues and concerns as they arise, and we're doing all we can to be quick with our responses. As part of our commitment to you, we're presenting this training to share messages of hope and explore ways you can support yourselves, each other, and the children in your care. Thank you for providing our first responders, healthcare workers, and other essential employees with the peace of mind needed to focus on their vital work of addressing this pandemic. And thank you for the important work you do to keep New York going. You are amazing. You are essential. You are essentially amazing. Remember, together we will get through this. Stay safe, stay strong, stay New York tough.
And with that, we say hello and welcome to all of you to this New York State Office of Children and Family Services training, United in Hope, Caring for Children and Child Care Providers. I am Trish Geary. I am one of your co-hosts tonight. I'm joined by my very, very good friend and colleague, long-term colleague, Casey Becker. Hi, Casey. How are you tonight?
Hey Trish, I'm doing well. How are you?
You know, I'm not doing too bad. I am feeling pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing all right, but I don't see you.
It's magic. Hang on a minute. Wow.
There you are.
Pretty good at this, huh? So I'll get our slides back up. So we are really happy to be here. By the way, everyone, just to let you know, I'm going to get back to where we need to be on our slides here. Sorry about that. We are really happy to be here with you. There's a lot of things that we do, really want to talk about and to go through. I think one of the most important things, though, Casey, right, is talking about how essential our child care providers are and really trying to get everyone together and just kind of unite in the hope and the wonderful things that everybody's been doing.
That's right, Trish. So let's get started. Now, you play an essential role in the lives of children and families, and you provide a safe place and healthy place for them to go every day so that their families working in various essential professions like medical professionals or grocery workers, firefighters, law enforcement officers, and sanitation workers, they can continue to do the work that they do that's vital for all of our communities. So we want to start off by just saying thank you for all that you're doing to provide safe, quality care during these uncertain times. We appreciate you, and we really do celebrate you. So thank you for being here with us.
And they really are uncertain times. I mean, I think that can't be said enough. As we're seeing on the screen, changes in the world. Just look at some of the things that are going on. We all know that COVID-19 really has changed the ins and outs of our daily lives. We now know about social distancing, what that actually looks like in our communities. For most of us, that's meant learning from home, working from home, and really not being able to have that great face-to-face contact with our friends, our loved ones, our providers for some, for some families. We need to remember, though, and I think the main message of tonight is that it's not always going to be this way. Eventually all our programs are going to be reopened. All our businesses, we are going to reopen. Things will return. We're going to be able to get together again, and all of us together are going to be able to figure out what our new normal really is. But I think the question case is, what about now? What can everybody do in the here and now to be really positive forces, not only in your own families and your own programs, but really overall in your communities? And to prepare for tonight, our team kind of really talked to people all over New York. We spoke to providers, we spoke to regulators, we talked to a lot of the regional office managers, just to get an idea of the things that were going on and to really see what's happening for folks being that positive force. And a lot of folks just really wanted to share these messages of hope, this inspiration, and really highlight the amazing things that are going on in the different regions. I can't wait to share some of it because it really is innovative, and I think that's wonderful. And we are going to be sharing some of these messages of hope throughout the training tonight. Real briefly, I want to say that our mailbox, I've been plugging that. Please do, if you have great ideas about the things that we're talking about tonight, things that have been working well for you. You guys are the experts, and please, we ask you, share your good ideas, share your best practices, send those into the mailbox, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about a lot of them tonight. So please do that. But about these messages of hope, Case, it really is a kind of a great place to start off. I think you're going to be sharing our first one. And I'm going to guess that my colleague is probably having some trouble unmuting her
Sorry.
microphone. That's okay. You're the kid late to the party. I'm just glad you're here with me, friend.
Thanks, Trish. You're right. I do have a message of hope, which comes from Stacy, the Deputy Director of New York City Child Care Operations. And Stacy wrote to us and said her message of hope. Thanks to all the child care providers across New York State, especially our New York City providers. You are some of the unsung heroes working diligently to care for our children. You provide a service that is invaluable as you guide, teach, and love our youngest New Yorkers. The world may have changed drastically in the past 2 months, but you have continued to persevere and maintain a safe, secure, and loving environment for all. Hats off to all of you for the work that you do and will continue to do throughout this pandemic. So we just wanted to thank Stacy for that message. We really appreciated her sending that in.
It's really positive, and I think too, Case, it gives us a good way to start off kind of with our goals and objectives. That's a good mind frame to start off in. This is really about supporting the childcare providers, supporting these really essential folks in our communities. You guys are doing such important work right now, and this is really to give you the information and support and help that we can. So let's get started by looking at, sorry about that, our goals and objectives. By the end of this evening, we really want you to have a better understanding of the CDC guidelines that have come out, just kind of helping us all make sure that we're keeping safe, and making sure that we're doing the things that we should be doing during COVID-19 to keep our program safe. You're going to be able to identify the signs and symptoms that someone you work with, maybe a child in your care, or maybe one of your staff, or maybe yourself are experiencing some trauma and may need some extra help and support. You're also going to be able to implement some strategies that are going to help you reduce stress, not just for the children in your care, but for yourself, because we really do want to help you help yourself. We know how hard you guys are working right now. And finally, and maybe in my opinion, one of our most important points of the evening is to really have you walk away with a sense of hope, a sense of support and empowerment and gratitude. I think that's really important to everybody.
I really do agree with you on that, Trish, and hopefully a lot of these messages that we'll be sending along will help people really get that sense of hope and that sense of gratitude. And speaking of that, and you see on your slide here, questions, we really would like to hear from you throughout tonight. So if you have any questions at all about the content or anything, please send them to the ECETP mailbox. I know Trish has mentioned it a couple of times already for us tonight. And we just want to let you know that if you submit something there, someone is there to kind of reach out to you tonight. But if you don't get a real specific answer, maybe something that you're looking for, someone will follow up with you within the next couple of days with the information that you're looking for. And as Trish did mention earlier too, we really would like to encourage you to use that mailbox also as a way to tell us about things that you are currently doing. Maybe they're different things in your program, maybe adaptations that you've had to make for maybe cleaning and sanitizing, or maybe drop off and pickup times or screenings, or maybe some really creative ways that you are staying connected with the families, or maybe some of those really different activities that you're doing with the children. So we really are interested in hearing about those things from you, as well as some resources that are available in your communities that are helping you get through these times. And also, if you have a short message of hope that you'd like for us to share with others, we'd really like to hear those as well. So please keep sending all of those ideas and messages into the ECETP mailbox, and our hope is really to be able to share some of those things with everybody tonight as we go through our content.
Because these guys are really pretty creative folks. Just the stuff, in the bit of outreach that we did and talking to everybody, there's some really creative stuff going on that I'm excited to share, because I know everybody's going to be doing this kind of stuff. It's just really cool. Let's start talking though about some of the guidance and some of the guidelines that we've gotten from the CDC, from OCFS, from the State Department of Health. Let's really kind of look at some of the suggestions. And the first area we are going to start in is the area of everyday prevention, because there is stuff that we can all do every day, right? Not only in our professional lives, but in our personal lives, to really help prevent the spread of illness in general. Um, and you're already doing a lot of this. I do want to say that you guys are already doing a lot of the suggested things, because it's all already in your healthcare plan, to be honest with you. Um, so if you're following your healthcare plan, you're already doing a lot of the things that the experts are suggesting. In fact, we've got this list. Casey, walk us through it a little bit, will you?
I sure will, Trish. Everyday preventive things, wash your hands and be sure that you're doing that often, and doing that with soap and water. And if, you don't have soap and water available to you at that moment, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer that has at least 60% alcohol. That will help. And to remember, when you are using hand sanitizer, and if that, you want to make sure that you're supervising children when you're using that, so that you prevent any ingestion. We also preventive every day. We're cleaning and disinfecting frequently touched surfaces. We're covering those coughs and those sneezes, preferably using that elbow technique. And then we're, also be sure to require sick children and staff to stay at home. Everybody's got exclusion criteria in their healthcare plans. So just make sure you're following these everyday prevention strategies to help you keep everybody safe and healthy.
Now, Case, the Centers for Disease Control has actually kind of come up with all kinds of guidelines, and guidelines specific to childcare programs as well, all around preventing the spread of COVID-19 and keeping our programs and our children safe. So as you're seeing on your screen here, the CDC, and as I mentioned, the State Department of Health, we know because we see it on the news every day, things are updating all the time, and they're updating their guidance all the time as everything evolves. So the good news is there's lots of really comprehensive information out there from reputable sources like CDC, DOH, and of course, easy one-stop shop is OCFS. You're seeing that link right on your screen. It is also in the handouts. Like I say, go to OCFS website, type in COVID-19 guidance, and you're really going to find a lot of great information. Quickly though, in our conversation the other day, Casey wanted me to remind you all that the CDC guidelines we're going to be talking about do not supersede any of your applicable federal, state, local laws, or policies for child care programs. So just kind of keep that in mind.
Now, Trish, this guidance addresses some considerations in a couple of areas, and we're going to talk about those areas in a little bit of detail today. And as you see on your screen, these are the areas we're going to be talking about. Wearing face coverings, implementing social distancing strategies, intensifying your cleaning and your disinfection efforts, modifying your drop-off and your pickup procedures, and implementing screening procedures when children arrive at your program. And Trish, we're going to start off with a conversation about face coverings. What can you tell us about that?
Well, when you look at the CDC guidance, Casey, again, this is a lot of stuff we've already heard. And I just want to point out that providers are required right now to wear face coverings, of course, while you're caring for children or even while you're interacting with caregivers at pickup and drop off. So you're wearing those face coverings at all times, really. Face coverings, when we think about it, they include, but they're not limited to cloth, things like homemade sewn cloths, quick cut, or like a bandana around the face. They can also be surgical masks, N95 respirators, face shields. In case I just want to bring up, I know you and your daughter actually made face shields, and I'm curious if any programs kind of have any face, covering programs going on where they're either making them with older children or, helping families get them. That'd be great to hear about in the mailbox.
Yeah, you're right. My daughter and I, we found a quick thing on the internet about how to make some masks out of some old socks and some coffee filters. So we sat around and did that for a little bit, kind of take the little mystique out of wearing masks and what they're all about and why we need to wear them. And, speaking of that, as you mentioned, providers are wearing masks with the children and around the families. So, but the children in the programs aren't wearing masks. So this could really lead to confusion for some of the children. I know my daughter, she's 12, she was really curious about and wondering why the masks were coming out. So the children may be wondering, why do you have to wear the mask, but I don't? And masks could scare some of the children because all of a sudden, especially for the little ones, all of a sudden you're going to look and you sound different. They can't see your smile that they're so used to seeing every morning when they get at the program. So we just wanted to give you some tips to keep in mind that may help the children adjust to your wearing a mask. Maybe start out by explaining that you're wearing the mask as a way to help others by keeping yourself and others safe. We're going to hear a lot about talking about safety tonight. Maybe tell the, children that the masks are a safety precaution. It's a way to stay healthy. So compare it to washing your hands and again, coughing into your elbow. So these are all things that we do to keep ourselves safe. Maybe demonstrate how to use the mask with a doll or a puppet. So sit with a child if they're having some anxiety, or sit with the whole group of children and practice putting the mask on and off a doll. Let the children practice putting the mask on and off the doll. And do this a couple of times so that they can see that the doll is the same doll, whether the mask is on or off. And if you can, find books or pictures or posters with people wearing masks and share them with the children. And if you can't find those, maybe you could take some pictures of some of the staff around the program wearing their masks and put those up maybe next to pictures of the staff without them wearing their masks so they can see it's the same person. And we just want to remind everybody that, as you know, children are unique and they will respond to changes differently. So what frightens or excites one child may not have any effect on another child. So remember to use developmentally appropriate strategies and really tailor your approaches and your conversations to meet the needs of each of the individual children in your care. So Trish, those are just some tips about using masks with the children. Hey Trish, you're not unmuted.
Hey, thanks. That's why I really love having you around, buddy. That's why we're so close. I'm glad you mentioned that, though. We're going to kind of talk, though, about something I think that's sort of unspoken in all of this. Childcare programs are not meant to be places of social distancing. Really, I mean, we're not. We're meant to nurture and care for kids. And think about it. You hug a sad child. You even high five a child, who's successfully just achieved something, new skill or done something really well that they've struggled with. Even just sitting with a child and reading a good book. I mean, if you work with even younger children, let's face it, you're bottle feeding babies, you're changing diapers. None of these things can be done while you're 6 feet apart. So it's a really important question right now. What does social distancing even look like in childcare? OCFS does have some recommendations for us. So this is what the guidelines, they're based on CDC guidance, but these are the OCFS recommendations. And they're saying that if possible, your classes should include the same group of children and staff each day. And those groups must be limited to no more than 10 people. That 10 people includes the teachers. Your large group activities are prohibited right now. That means you're going to need to cancel or postpone special events, performances. And remember that groups of children must be kept separate. They cannot utilize the play or group common areas at the same time right now. So what does this mean? This means you really must stagger playground times. Keep your group activities like art, music, exercise, even your meal and circle times. These need to be separate right now. For sleeping arrangements, you want to keep children's sleeping cots and cribs 6 feet apart if possible. So those cots, cribs, 6 feet apart between them if you can, and really consider placing children head to toe when you lay them down to rest. Finally, and we'll talk about this in a bit, but consider staggering your arrival and pickup times because this is going to limit the adult or caregiver exposure inside of your program. So those are very important guidelines. Casey, I do want to say though that it's, when you're trying to kind of distance socially, it sort of flies in the face of these relationships that everybody's been trying to build with their families. I mean, that's one of the most magical things I think about our childcare programs is the relationship they build with the families.
It is. And, part of building those relationships is having that ability to have face-to-face conversations and really get to know one another and doing that on a daily basis. And social distancing is really making this a huge challenge. So, we've had to learn how to be creative with how we're communicating with our families. And the CDC does recommend that you should share information about the child's day with the parents over the phone or with a written note. Because we can't have those daily face-to-face conversations. We're going to hear about some of these in a bit, but we can also stay connected with families via different social media outlets, sharing things like your daily schedule or having a daily video chat, maybe recording a circle time or a book reading, or maybe even sending messages of, a favorite toy or a class pet, maybe sending a message to the children and the families, just checking in to see how everybody's doing. And Trish, I think we've gotten some ideas already from the ECETP mailbox, and I think you're going to share some of those with us.
You're always stealing my thunder, number one. Everybody knows you're the smart kid. Come on, here we go. I'm going to share these now, Casey. I'm beating you to it. We did get some really awesome feedback into our mailbox. Here's a couple of the things I want to share. Virtual class or daily virtual learning hour. That's pretty cool. It says this program is streaming live on Facebook, and it says they've opened it to all the children and families in the program. That's a terrific way for the kids to really make that contact with their providers they may not be seeing. Another program talks about a group Facebook page for all their families, and they send out updates, community resources. That's a great thing to share with families. They post learning materials. Here's a program that does weekly robocalls to families with updates, different things going on in the community. This program has a parent distribution list, an email list. And that's pretty cool. It says it's a really quick way to share materials and information with 150 people, 150 parents from their program. Oh, in case Zoom, we've had some Zoom sessions as well. This program does them on Wednesdays, and they're open to all children, parents, and staff. I do think it's important, though, Case, to kind of talk about the confidentiality confidentiality and privacy protections. When we are using these social media platforms, we really want to make sure that those protections are in place to keep kids safe. And I think you've gotten to some other mailbox remarks too, right, Casey? I think you beat me to these.
I do. We have one program here that says their nurse records daily physical fitness videos for the children and parents to do from home. That's pretty cool. I know my daughter's on a swim team and they can't get into the pools right now, so coaches are sending daily dry land activities for them to do. I've got one here that talks about a weekly virtual cooking lesson that's facilitated by the kitchen manager. That sounds great. I'd like to get in on that and get some new ideas for recipes we can have for dinner. We've got one program here that says that they mail and electronic delivery of learning packets for all the families. They do this on a bi-weekly basis.
That's really cool.
Right? We've got another group here that's created Google Classrooms for all 18 of their pre-K and early Head Start classrooms. We've got teachers connecting with their students daily or weekly, again, through things like Zoom and Seesaw and FaceTime, emails, phone calls, etc. And remember, as Trish mentioned, we've got those privacy reminders. And then we also want to point out that OCFS actually issued a Dear Provider letter pretty recently on May 5th. And that gave great guidance and resources for ways to maintain connections with families and support during this time. And that letter can be found on the OCFS website. And the link to the OCFS website is, you'll see it many times throughout tonight's program. And it's also available in your handouts.
Thanks for pointing that out, Case. I'm actually not able to share that on screen, but it is posted on the website and it was released May 5th, as Case said. So let's talk now about the impact of all of this going on, about the children that you guys care for and how it's impacting you. And when we look at this group, infants and toddlers, Casey, that's one of your favorite age ranges. This is a group that really depends on you guys to get very basic needs met, right? Caring for an infant and a toddler requires constant care. It requires your close attention. So really, when you think about it, how is this supposed to work with social distancing? It kind of flies in the face of it, right? Well, we want to keep doing a lot of the good things, I'll keep saying this, that you guys are already doing. Diapering, for instance. When it comes to diapering, you are already doing the right things every day because you're following the diapering procedures that are listed right in your healthcare plan. And we'll talk about that a little further, but about the things you can find in the healthcare plan. But as long as you're following that, you're really doing the good things. You're also seeing on your screen right now a poster from the CDC because they really recommend that you at least post these safe diaper changing procedures in all diaper changing areas in your program. Just good practice, just a good reminder to have up and posted. You can find this poster on your screen called Safe and Healthy Diapering to Reduce the Spread of Germs by going to the CDC's website. And again, you can just type in safe and healthy diapering. This is one of the things that's going to come up for you.
Now,
So
Trish,
Tracy, that was diapering.
Yep, I was just going to say, Trish, you just talked about diapering, but, feeding is another big way that we all make connections with our infants and toddlers because they really need that healthy social emotional development and to develop that trust and the trusting relationships with adults in their lives. And you can really connect with infants and toddlers, especially infants, when you're doing those ritual feeding and diapering practices. And you help also build these relationships by meeting the basic needs of the child. You do this by making sure they have appropriate nutrition and that they have safe sleep environments and spaces to sleep, and that, you do diaper and, as we just talked about, the diapering, and you positively guide them on their toileting skills. You also actively engage them in a lot of opportunities to build warm and positive relationships with you. So with all these activities, you can protect yourself during these times, as feeding and diapering, when you've got that close and can't maintain that social distancing. So the CDC has some recommendations, and To help us out, we can wear an over large button down long sleeve shirt. You can wear your long hair, if you have that, up off your collar in a ponytail or an updo. You wash your hands, neck, or any other place that's touched with a child's secretions. You should have the children in your care, and you should also have multiple changes of clothing on hand in the program, so that in the case that something does get contaminated, a piece of clothing does get some secretions on it, that you can immediately take those off, change, put them in a plastic bag stored up high away from the children, or if you have a washing machine, you can wash those. And then they also say, make sure you're washing your hands and the child's hands before and after feedings and diaperings. And, Trish mentioned that diaper changing procedure poster. The CDC also has posters about hand washing, not only for children, but also for teens, and you can find those on their website as well. So great things, great resources to hang up around the program to remind everybody about proper procedures for all kinds of things we're doing to keep ourselves safe.
And these kinds of things really are great visual reminders. So it's nice that they're available and for free right from the website. So we've been talking about, some of the things that we're already doing, Case. When we talk about cleaning and sanitizing, that's another area where the providers in our state are actually doing really good work already. Because we all already have these standards for cleaning and sanitizing toys, any materials used by children. So you're going to keep following those procedures. By the way, again, in your healthcare plan, this one is Appendix E. It's actually titled, excuse me, Cleaning, Sanitizing, and Disinfecting. So if you need a little refresher on those procedures, check out Appendix E of your healthcare plan. Also, we want you to keep these CDC guidelines in mind. The CDC is saying, you know what, you're doing good work, intensify it. Keep up those cleaning and sanitizing efforts, keep them going. The CDC also says that toys and equipment that cannot be cleaned and sanitized, things like stuffed animals, you shouldn't use them because you just can't really know that they're safe. Any toys that children's mouths go on, these need to be set aside, and you really do need to clean these when you're wearing gloves. Get those really clean and make sure you're not recontaminating them. And do not share toys between groups of children unless those toys have been washed and sanitized, again, by someone wearing gloves. Now, Casey, we did a little research, you and I, about paper-based products because we wondered, what's the process there? Books and other paper-based materials are not considered a high risk for virus transmission. So the CDC is saying that we do not need additional cleaning or disinfection procedures for your books or your paper-based materials. So, Case, that's a good look, I think, at a lot of the guidelines that folks have, put forth the CDC. And again, just a quick reminder, you can find all of this great guidance, a lot of great information on the OCFS website. But now we're going to hear from some of our folks in the field about how it is that their cleaning and sanitizing procedures have changed, because we all know that they probably have changed a bit. So bear with me here as I get my screen back and let's take a look.
We just stepped it up a notch and we're cleaning toys, cleaning classrooms, closing certain classrooms down so deep cleaning can take place, and more frequent rug washing and intense cleaning.
And it's a lot of sanitizing, right down to the pens that the parents are signing in and out with. We have wipes and we're wiping them down between each drop off and pickup.
After each group is done leaving that area, they sanitize. One staff stays behind and cleans. So we do a really great job with cleaning and just, being aware of our surroundings.
We have weekend staff also that comes in and does some deep cleaning as well. So, and our teachers are troopers. They're constantly cleaning, constantly.
Hi, I'm Jim Hart, Director of Program Operations at the Division of Child Care Services. I want to start out by saying thank you. Thank you for providing essential child care services to the children and families of New York State during these challenging and unprecedented times. Your commitment and dedication to the families you serve is recognized and appreciated. We are grateful for all that you do, and happy Provider Appreciation Day.
We want to thank Jim Hart for that wonderful message of hope. You know, we appreciate him taking the time to share that with us. And as he said, these are unprecedented times. So that means we're having to make a lot of adaptations to the things going on in our programs. And one of those areas where a lot of people have had to make some adaptations is during drop-off and pickup, which we know those can be some of the most hectic times of our day, especially if several families arrive at the same time. And, you know, the social distancing has really got a lot of us, like I said, making adaptations and changing up the way we conduct those drop-offs and pickups. And again, some of our providers, they were able to let us know about some of the ways that they've made some of those changes to the way they're doing those things. And then we're going to hear from them, and then we're going to hear from Tracy Turner, who's the Director of Regional Operations for the Division of Child Care Services. She also had a message of hope for us. So let's see what's going on with drop-offs and pickups, Trish.
Tracy did have a really great message, and we'll share that right after this.
Our program looks different. I mean, it has to look different because of things that have changed. So there's a lot of things that we've had to rethink and the way that we're going to redo things. At the place that we're currently working, there's a vestibule. So with our staff, we're able to kind of have parents sign in and out in the vestibule, limit the number of people that are coming into the program.
So right at drop off, you know, every morning we have a staff that goes out, does the daily health screen, takes the child's temperature, and, you know, then they come in and they're directed to go wash their hands.
So when this first started, we had parents were always able to come in using a key fob, and then they would go into the rooms, their classrooms, different wings, get their child and leave. Then we went to the parents coming into the lobby. Then the teachers, we would buzz, or we would retrieve the children, bring them to the lobby, and then they would leave. But then that started, parents were arriving, you know, around the same time, so that became a little, you know, just not safe distancing. Now we have we now bring the children, they're in their classrooms. We are fortunate enough where the classrooms have doors leading to the outdoors. So the parents go right to that door marked with a cone, because there's different classrooms that are open and some classrooms that are not. So all the parents at first were like, this is going to be a hardship because we have a child on the left wing and we have a child on the right wing. But they adapted, and that's been working out nicely. In fact, the teachers are like, can we do this all the time?
Hello, I'm Tracy Turner, Director of Regional Operations, and I wanted to take a moment to thank you all for what you do each and every day for the children and families in New York State. Although the sentiment doesn't seem worthy of the work you do day in and day out, even during a global pandemic, you need to know how much we appreciate you. And make no mistake, you are frontline workers caring for our most precious gifts so that parents can go to work and save lives. And the photos and stories that you share with your regulator serve as daily inspiration to all of us. We are here to support you in any way that we can. We're in this together, and we will get through this and emerge stronger. So please be well and keep smiling.
Again, we wanted to thank Tracy for that message of hope that she sat down and delivered for us. And, you know, she mentioned the photos and the stories that everyone's sharing with their regulators. And we just wanted to remind everybody that, you know, we really would like to hear from you some more of those stories and things that you were doing throughout your daily operations that are, you know, really inspirational, and messages of hope and things, that ways you're making adaptations or resources that you have. So keep on sharing those with us through the ECETP mailbox. Now, Trish, I think you were going to help us learn about some CDC recommendations about parent drop-off and pickup.
You know, I was hoping you'd ask. They do actually have some guidelines, and the neat thing is, I know we've heard from a lot of programs, you're doing this kind of stuff already. Of course you are, because you're awesome. But let's just go over these. The CDC suggests that you consider staggering your arrival and pickup times, or you can meet caregivers outside of your building so you can escort the children in and out of your program. Again, we're limiting, any kind of contact or transmission. You should also set up hand hygiene stations at the entrance of your program so hands can be cleaned before people even enter. And if a sink with running water isn't available right there, you definitely want to have some hand sanitizer, like in places next to your parents' sign-in sheets. And remember, if there's anything that people are touching, like the pens they use for those sign-in sheets, you want to have some, sanitizing wipes there so that you can wipe those things off as well between uses. Ideally, you want to have the same designated parent or caregiver pick that child up every day. And that's, it may not be possible, but it really would be a best case scenario.
It would. And, Trish, with drop-off time, there are recommendations as well for screening processes. And, you're already doing great work with doing your daily health checks every day on awake children as they arrive at the program. So these screening guidelines should just be really a continuation of that great work you're already doing on the daily health checks. And, keep doing those daily health checks as you've always been doing with children. But, we just want to recommend that you add these additional protocols when you're screening children and staff as they arrive. Now, the New York State Department of Health states that persons, staff, or children who have a fever of 100 or above or show any signs of lower respiratory illness such as a cough, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, or a sore throat should not be permitted to the program.
So that's 100, Casey? Because I've heard different numbers.
That is, I know, Trish, I've heard other numbers as well, but the New York State Department of Health has said that 100 is the number to follow during the COVID-19 emergency.
Okay.
Yep. Now, you can take temperatures yourself. Just make sure you're following proper safety precautions of hand washing, using gloves and masks, and then cleaning the thermometer between uses. And, really, it's important to remember to use a new set of gloves between each child that you're screening. So every time you're going to do a screening, make sure that you're changing those gloves and using new ones. Now, we've covered a lot of CDC guidelines here tonight and, New York State DOH guidelines. And as Trish mentioned a couple of times, you can find all that information in a one-stop shop at the OCFS website. But if you want to just go right to the CDC, you can find that information there as well, and you can see the address on your screen, cdc.gov, and you can find a lot of the information that we've covered so far on that website.
I think that's probably your favorite website these days next to OCFS. I think that's where you and I are the most lately, Case. We're going to shift our conversation right now more away from kind of the guidelines and kind of to the topic of stress, the signs of stress, our awareness of stress, how it's impacting the children, how it's impacting us. But I really think that when we talk about this and when we transition to this part of the conversation, we really need to start with hope, because that's what tonight is all about, offering support, offering hope. So we are going to start with another message right now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to introduce everyone to our friend Maria. If it'll let me, there we go. We're going to introduce everyone to our friend Maria, who is actually a registration supervisor in the city of New York, and she gave us a really great message of hope in English and in Spanish, which I thought was really cool. Let's listen to Maria.
Queremos dar las gracias a todas nuestras proveedoras y proveedores. Ustedes son importantes para nuestra ciudad y para nuestro mundo por la labor que hacen. Ustedes cuidan, guían y protegen a nuestros niños y niñas. Y en momentos de crisis como este, nunca dicen no. Muchísimas gracias por el apoyo que dan a nuestra ciudad. Apreciamos todos sus esfuerzos. We want to take a moment to express our gratitude for our providers. You are so important to our city and to our world for the work you do. You care, guide, and protect our children. And in a time of crisis like this, you never say no. Thank you very much for the support you give to our city. We appreciate all your effort.
We were so grateful to talk to Maria that day. She was such a really wonderful person.
Yeah, she really was. And Trish, she talked about this time of crisis, and we really are all in a kind of state of flux right now. Things are uncertain. Um, I know you've been saying how unpredictable things are for you recently. So, you know,
You and I do tend to talk a little bit about the uncertainty that we're all going through, don't we? But I think that's neat too, and it's something that we're going to talk about as we go forward, Casey, the different things that we all do to kind of get through these times and the things that help. As Casey says, things are very uncertain right now. It's a constant state of flux. Things like predictable routines, even the people and places in our lives, it's been taken away from us. I mean, think about this. All of these things are taken away. Life as we knew it does not exist at this point in time. And no one really knows what's going to go on in the future either. I mean, this is pretty crazy when you think about it. Like, how does that make you feel as an adult? Life as you knew it is over with. And now it's like you're thinking about how this is impacting our children and what they must be going through just to try to process and make sense of it all. The good news, quite frankly, is they have you on their side. You, in a lot of ways, are their structure, you are their nurturing, and you are the people that are going to help kids get through these uncertain times. And I think the youngest among our population, Casey, is probably really feeling this pressure, but you kind of took the lead and you talked to all kinds of terrific experts in this field. Why don't we take a moment and meet all of them, Casey, and then we're going to hear from them some great advice, some great suggestions for how we can help kids or the children in our care. You always tell me a kid is a goat. How we can help the children in our care and ourselves. Why don't you introduce us, Casey?
yeah, Trish, we really did have a wonderful opportunity to speak with some experts in the fields of all over mental health, trauma, resilience, and we were able to get their thoughts on a lot of the topics that we're going to be discussing as we continue. So I just want to tell you a little bit about each of those experts. And one of them was Barbara Kaiser. Now, she's the co-author of a book called Challenging Behavior in Young Children. And she's been working in the field for many, many years as a director, a speaker, and a trainer. We also had the opportunity to speak with Joanne Trinkle, who's a social worker by training, and she's been in children's mental health and child welfare program development and program management for many years. We spoke with Tim Hathaway, who's the executive director with Prevent Child Abuse New York, which is a not-for-profit organization working statewide, doing a variety of things around prevention. And then we also spoke with Dr. Nefertiti Pointer, who is an early childhood specialist and national trainer with the Devereaux Center for Resilient Children. And they had so many wonderful things to say, so many things that helped me personally in communicating with my daughter and things like that. So I'm really excited to be able to share their knowledge with everybody.
And we were so grateful that they all made time for us. I mean, again, it's very exciting to share this stuff because I think it's really going to be helpful. Why don't we, Casey, actually, before we do that, let's kind of frame this discussion for a minute. Let's frame what we're talking about. What is a traumatic event? According to the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, NCTSN, they also have a great website, by the way, folks. You can Google NCTSN and find them. Definitely check them out. But they define a traumatic event as a frightening, dangerous, or violent event that poses a threat to a child's life or bodily integrity. Pretty deep, huh? And it's also really, when you think about it and put it in our current context, it's kind of a pretty accurate description for what every one of us is going through to some degree right now. We are all experiencing some kind of trauma, some kind of stress, right? In some of the trainings I've done, I've learned that there are actually different types of stress. We right now want to go to one of the experts. Casey just introduced us to Barbara Kaiser. She's going to tell us all about the different levels of stress.
Not every experience is felt as stressful by everyone. We all have a different way of reacting to events in our lives. And often people are saying, well, the COVID-19 pandemic is not that serious, and we're making too big a deal out of it. But for some people, this is an extremely stressful event. And the difference between stress is some stress you can cope with, and that stress is kind of healthy stress. There's also tolerable stress, which when you have someone who can support you and be there for you, you can also cope with it, and children can cope with it. But toxic stress and trauma is when the adults are kind of not there for the kids, when they're dealing maybe with their own stress, which is truly what I think is happening today. And so for many children, without realizing it, the COVID-19 pandemic is providing opportunities for a lot of trauma for young children.
Our thanks to Dr. Kaiser for her time. Get our slides back up, Casey, and we can keep talking about what children need.
Yeah, Trish, I also wanted to mention that earlier you had mentioned the National Child Traumatic Stress Network and their website. I just did want to mention that in the handouts, there should be links to a couple of articles from that website, and you can also find their contact information in the handouts as well. The website address is right there.
Awesome. Good thinking, Casey Becker.
Thanks very much. Sometimes I have a good idea. So as we just heard from Barbara, that, there are different levels of stress, and we all react to those different levels differently. So what some things children, they need different things from us depending on, their age or their developmental level. So we were wondering, what do they need from us during times of stress? So we asked the experts that question, and they had some really good advice for us. So we're going to hear some of that, and then we're also going to hear another message of hope, and this one's going to come to us from Tina Cook, who's the Syracuse Regional Office Manager.
Regardless of a child's age and whether or not you are a parent at home or a child care educator at a center operating as an emergency site for essential workers, what children need now is to feel safe. And so we have to really remember that the most important thing is that children feel they have an adult present in their life who can provide the understanding and support they need to cope with their circumstances.
And when we think about safety, we have to think about it not so much just as in physical safety, because for children, it's not just whether they're in danger that's the problem, it's whether they think they're in danger that causes the problem. It's the same reaction, whether or not something's actually happening to them. If they're worried about something, that has an impact as well. So there's that mental and physical and emotional kind of need for safety.
Children need consistency and caring from the adults around them. And so things like trying to keep the schedules as consistent as we can. Things like smiles and hugs and reassurance that you're safe are just some of the things that children need when dealing with stress.
We also need, on the emotional end of that, we need to be able to reconnect with people in a way that affirms that I'm whole, I'm intact, I'm okay, and the people that I care about are okay and all right as well.
You need to remember that FAIR isn't about giving every child the same thing. It's about giving children what they need. And in this case, every child is going to need something a little bit different. Allow a lot of time for free play, especially dramatic play, because that's how children are going to work through their feelings.
Hi, my name is Tina Cook. I'm the Regional Manager for the Division of Child Care Services at the Syracuse Regional Office. And I am so honored to be able to say thank you to all of the child care providers for all the work that you do to make sure that our children have safe, quality care. I so appreciate all the work that you do. I appreciate how you continue to work even during this time of our pandemic. I just want to let you know that we appreciate you and we're here for you. We'd like you to know that you can continue to reach out to your licensor, to our regional office, and to the CCR&R for anything that you need, and we'll do our best to provide that for you. I just want to say that as a parent, a mother of 6, and a grandmother of 6, I know how important it is to be able to take my children to daycare and to be able to leave them there and go to work and do what I need to do. But it's because of you, daycare providers. So I appreciate you, I thank you. And I used to say that my daycare providers were angels sent just for me. So I appreciate you, all of you angels out there, for the great work that you're doing. Thank you so much.
And now, Casey, I think that we should talk a little bit about resilience. Again, our thanks to Tina Cook. In fact, our thanks to everyone in the Syracuse area that we did talk to. Because we now have a better idea, I guess, from what we've just heard about what children need, Casey, the question becomes, what is it that we can do to help?
Yeah, and I think Tina really summed it up really well, how she said that, I knew that I could go to work and do what I needed to do because I had a safe place to drop my children off with their child care provider. And so I think that's one of the things that children need. They need you. They need you and that safe environment and the care that you're giving them every single day. And you can provide them with skills to help them build their resilience, and we can build our own resilience. So resilience is just really important. It's an important tool to have and to use, especially when trying to work through times of stress. So we want to start out with our experts and have them let us know what exactly resilience is. And then Jamie Frank, who's the Associate Commissioner for the Division of Child Care Services, she's going to give us her message of hope. So let's find out, Trish, what resilience is.
It's extremely important right now that we all tap into our ability to be resilient and also help our children develop their resilience. And resilience is the ability to bounce back from a terrible event and see it as an opportunity to learn new skills.
Resilience is the human being capability of withstanding stress. How much can we take?
It's the ability or the capacity to manage strong feelings and maintain a sense of well-being, even when you feel the world just is a scary place to be.
Being able to come back to equilibrium and regain that sense of it's going to be okay and I'm all right.
It is the process of bouncing back from unhealthy, difficult, challenging situations. And both children and adults can learn the process of becoming more resilient.
It's not something you have or you don't. It's something that you can build.
I like to use a rubber band as an example. Rubber bands can be stretched and pulled upon, but they also bounce back. Sometimes rubber bands are frail and do not have so much buoyancy. And what happens when you pull on them too much? They pop. And so resilience is the process of giving that rubber band some bounce back ability. That's how I like to think of resilience.
Hi, I'm Jamie Frank. I'm the Associate Commissioner for the Division of Child Care Services. I have a 2-year-old, and I know that I'm only able to be successful at my work because I can count on reliable, high-quality childcare where I know my child is safe, cared for, and loved every day. I am so thankful for my child and all of our childcare providers. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for the art projects, the walks to the library, the hugs, the songs, the head, shoulders, knees, and toes. This pandemic has raised up what you all know and what all working parents have known for a long time. For the first time now, society is seeing how vital your services truly are. The world that we come back to may look different, but one thing I'm sure of is that it's your creativity, resiliency, your read aloud and dance parties that are a comfort to our children during this scary time and will be a safe touchstone for our recovering world. Thank you for all you do. We appreciate you, and we can't wait to be back together soon.
You know, we really can't wait to be back together. I think Jamie's message really summed that up beautifully.
I do as well. And we really want to thank her for that message. And, you know, one thing that she said, Trish, that really resonated with me was that creativity and resilience as touchstones for our recovery. Touchstones for our recovery.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Right? Creativity and resilience, you know, and so here we are talking about resilience. And, you know, as those experts told us, building resilience, it's a process and it can be learned. But how do we do that? I wasn't sure until, you know, they were talking to us. So let's go back to our experts, Trish, and to hear about some ways that we can learn how to build our own resilience. And then we're going to hear another message of hope. And this one comes from Pat Harper, who is the Buffalo Regional Office Manager.
Take a look.
When we think about ourselves as adults and our capability to withstand stress and pressure and our own resilience, the most important thing for us to do is try to find ways to become self-aware, whether or not that means, as you were growing up, is this language that your family used about reflecting to you what it looks like when you're stressed out, or reflecting to you like, are you okay? You don't seem okay today. Kind of taking those cues and trying to figure out, where is my edge? How do I know when I'm not okay? And then how do I intervene with myself early in that kind of process, or that dial up of going from I'm a little bit stressed to like I can't take it kind of thing.
And it often helps to develop something called positive self-talk. Remind yourself daily that this is temporary and accept that change is part of living. Help others. It often helps us build our own resilience when we can be there for others. Find the lesson in all of this. What are we learning? How has the world changed in a positive way? And what have we learned about ourselves and each other throughout this experience? Avoid seeing crises as unsurmountable problems. Try and stick to a routine if you can.
The resilience literature says in order to be resilient, you and I have to mitigate our risk factors a little bit with our protective factors. I like to think of risk factors as rain, and the protective factors are what help mitigate some of the risk factors. Doesn't make them go away, but again, it helps mitigate a little bit. And I like to say, your protective factors, our protective factors, there are umbrellas. So imagine you're in a rainstorm. It's coming down on you in a mighty way. Your protective factors are your umbrellas. And so what do you have as your protective factors? Well, the research makes it very clear. Friends, family, protective factors. That woman may not just be your mom, but she's your protective factor. Your partner may not just be your partner, they're also your protective factor. And when you're dealing with tough moments, you need your protective factors.
Hi, I'm Pat Harper. Childcare workers, you have always been essential, and it is all the more apparent now. It takes courage to be on the front line. Maya Angelou said, we should try to be a rainbow in someone's cloud. And you are doing just that by making sure that those who must work have childcare. These are frightening times. You know, when I was a child, my favorite hero was Superman. Christopher Reeve said, a hero is an ordinary person who finds strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming circumstances. Please know that you are admired and appreciated, and that these days, you and all of the essential workers out there are the real life superheroes.
Our thanks to Pat Harper. Always
Trish,
good to talk to Pat.
Trish, you know that one gets me every time.
I know, because you are my sunshine. I don't know if people know this, but that actually happens to be one of Casey Becker's favorite songs on earth.
It is because, you know, in times when I feel stressed, it brings me back to, I think of that song and it brings me back to my childhood, and it really gives me that sense of security. My grandfather used to sit around the campfire and he'd get out his washboard and he used to play that and he used to sing, "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." And I hear it in my head, and when I get stressed, it just kind of takes me back and it calms me down. So when Pat held up that sign, it really touched me. So
But you know, what does that tell you, Case? That tells you that these songs and these things that providers do with children, these are the things that children are going to remember for the rest of their lives. So that's, I think that story really kind of illustrates how important this audience is to the tiny humans who are going to be running our world someday.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you know, as we just heard, some ways that we can build our resilience, and there are things that we can do to help children to build their resilience. So our experts also did give us some advice on ways we can help our children do that. So let's hear what they had to say.
Let's take a look.
One of the things I think is most important is to know your children. You have to be in tune to know your children. And when I say, you say, yeah, of course I know my children, but we have to be able to look at them and understand a little bit about when they're feeling sad or confused or overwhelmed.
You don't have a grandkid like I do.
It's listening, it's observing, it's being patient, it's being really mindful of my own responses and reactions, so that I'm opening doors rather than closing doors for kids.
Building upon their strengths, even when that strength is one that gets on our nerves, and being able to honor all feelings and understanding that all behavior has a feeling.
Yeah, I'll do it like that. Yeah, that's it.
So you can help a child build their resilience. So find ways to spend time with them, and for them not only to connect with you, but also with their peers. Focus on their strengths and interests so they build a sense of self-efficacy. What are they good at? And how does that make them feel? Children need to know that there's an adult in their life who believes in them and who loves them unconditionally, which is maybe a little bit hard right now if you're in a cooped up circumstance, but remember how important that is. And build a sense of physical safety and emotional security within your home and in your classroom, especially for those children who are attending childcare now, whose parents are dealing with a lot of issues that might make it very stressful for them and hard for them to respond the way they'd like to with their children right now. Allow the expression of all emotions so that kids can feel comfortable reaching out during these difficult times. And probably the most important thing that we as adults in children's lives can do, whether you're an early childhood educator or a parent or a grandparent, is to model positive coping strategies as a consistent basis. Let them know that you can deal with it, and it will help them to deal with it too and build their resilience. And another important piece is to offer choices and trust their decisions, allowing them to have a sense of self-control over their lives. And sometimes you might feel, well, maybe I shouldn't let him do that. But by giving him the power, empowering the child to feel that, hey, I have some control, will help them to build their resilience.
You did it? High five.
Those were great suggestions about building children's resilience, Case, and I think that's something that our presenter or our providers don't give themselves enough credit for, is how they help children build that resilience within themselves that they'll rely on for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely, I agree with you, Trish. And you know, one thing that the experts were talking about was like listening and making those connections and being present. And you know, right now you can't turn on the TV or the radio or go onto the internet without really being bombarded with all kinds of information about COVID-19. And I know myself, I struggle with what's the truth, what's fiction, what do I believe? And things are just changing so rapidly that, you know, it's really hard to keep up. And so, you know, the the children, they're hearing those messages too. And I know it's hard for them. My daughter says to me all the time, Mommy, I heard this. Is that true? You know, and it's a struggle to try to figure out. Well, I have to figure it out for myself first. Is that true? Before I can, you know, really have a conversation with her about it. So, you know, I really think that, you know, for me, I've really struggled with remembering that, you know, communicating with her, we have to do that in appropriate ways that, you know, are really in tune with them and their age and their developmental level. And I know that when we were talking to the experts, that's one thing that I said to them, you know, as a mom, I'm really struggling with how do I communicate with my daughter. So I was really glad to get some of this advice from them that we're about to hear. And then we're going to hear a message of hope from Linda Dara, who's with the Regional Office Support Unit with the Division of Child Care Services.
Let's take a look, because you're right, this is awesome information about how we can communicate with children.
When we think about how we're communicating with children about events that we as adults have a hard time making sense of also, we have to figure out what's the right language to use.
I think opening a door to let kids talk, or to let kids not talk, but to let them know that I'm interested in hearing what you have to say, is a great place to start. So I think you can't go wrong with saying to kids, hey, this is a crazy moment. This is a difficult experience. I'm struggling. Tell me what's happening for you. Tell me if there's anything that you want to talk about.
The other thing that we need to remember is that not to be afraid to talk about what's happening, but to be developmentally appropriate. Don't discount their fears when they bring them to you. When they have questions, the place to begin is to ask them what they know, what their worries are, and what they want to know from you before you answer. So you are really starting where they're at and not overwhelming them with maybe information they're not ready to hear or don't feel they need to hear. But it's very important to be honest and always reassure them that they're safe and you're going to take care of them.
One of the ways we can talk to children about traumatic events is, again, knowing who our children are as people. So, for example, you have a little one who you know has some fears of just basic things. You don't want to inundate that little one with too much, because it can jeopardize their sleep patterns, it can jeopardize their eating habits. And so going from the standpoint of knowing your children,
try to talk in terms where that person who they're developing to be as a human being, with their likes and their tendencies, try to pull that in.
Another important thing when responding to kids of any age is use black and white statements. Don't leave any room for doubt. Let them know you're looking out for them and things will inevitably return to normal, but it might take time. Children are also extremely aware of nonverbal communication. So make sure that what you say is consistent with how you're saying it, your body language, your facial expression, your tone of voice. And don't be afraid to tell your child that you're anxious too. Normalize their worries by helping them know it's okay and healthy to worry a little.
There are different things that we can do to intervene so that positive is coming in through this. So it balances the message. So it's not all scary and gloom and doom, but that, yes, it is, absolutely. It's real. Let's not pretend it's not real, but we have things we can do and we'll be okay. So it's sort of this kind of ebb and flow, because you don't want to make light of it, but you also don't want to talk to kids too much in such a way where it scares them more.
So I would say to children who are wondering, when is this going to end? You know what? The reality is we're just not sure yet. But you know what we are sure of? That we have each other today. And there are some things that we can do today to make this the best day that we can. And parents and professionals, what we have to also recognize is this is new and uncharted territory for all of us. There is no book, there is no PowerPoint or webinar we can attend to make this all just go away or have an immediate understanding. What we want to try to do is take control where we can.
And when the children return to your classroom, if you are an early childhood educator, let them tell you about their experience. What did they do? What was the favorite thing they did? Find times throughout the day to talk with them about how they're feeling and answer any questions they have. Adjust your expectations. Allow for outbursts and separation issues, and provide as much free play and open-ended activities as possible. And keep that dramatic play area open, because this is where the kids are going to work out their feelings and concerns and what they went through with each other about over this present issue.
You are heroes providing care to the children and families of New York. We are New York strong because of you.
So our thanks to Linda Dara for her message of hope, of course. In case I do want to kind of touch back on some of the things that we just heard from our experts.
So many powerful messages.
I know.
There's so many.
I mean, those are some of my, I changed my mind. That might be my favorite video of our piece. I know.
I can tell you it's one that I really took to heart, especially like I said before, you know, having difficulties trying to figure out how to communicate with my own daughter. So many things that they said in that piece I've actually taken and I've started using. Like, she comes to me and like, I ask her, well, what have you heard? You know, what are you wondering about? So starting with those questions and starting where she's at, and then I can build off of that. So such great advice that I'm implementing myself. And, you know, I think that we can take some of that advice as child care providers and use that with the children, but we can also take some of that and pass it on to the families, because the families really, really see their child care providers as a valuable resource. And they may be asking you guys, what advice do you have about ways I can communicate with my child about all this COVID-19 stuff? I don't know how to start the conversation or how to answer the questions. So some of the tips we just heard could be helpful, but we also ask the experts, you know, what are some things that, you know, we can pass on as child care providers to those families to help them, you know, because they pick up on what we say and what they hear from so many different media sources. So it's really important to be mindful of the conversations that we're having and to limit that media exposure for them. So our experts really did give us those great tips we just heard, but also some great tips for ways that we can share information with the families on how they can communicate with their children at home.
Most of what our little ones need to understand right now is about safety. It's about safety. It's a very complex word, coronavirus and COVID-19. And our 3-year-olds don't necessarily need to know that word. What they do need to understand is why things have changed and why things look different. And I'd like to suggest that we take all of our rules back to safety. Daddy, why can't I go down the street and play with Joshua? Well, right now in our world, things are just not safe. And Daddy's responsibility is to keep you safe. And so for right now, I would like to ask that you just stay closer to home with me, because that way I can make sure you're safe. Now, maybe in a few days or a few weeks, things will be different. But today, Daddy's job is to keep you safe. And I would like to keep you safe by having you home with me. Where can we play? What book can you read? Can you play hide and go seek with me? Something along those lines.
But I would say that the underlying strategy that I would encourage people to use is sort of just trust your gut, be yourself. Don't try to turn into somebody else. Nothing's worse than like a dad who's typically like dad jokes and goofy turning into somebody who tries to be more, you know, like a therapy conversation, right? So part of it is using your own personality, be yourself, be who you've always been in relationship with the children that you know.
So a word of encouragement to parents and the caregivers out there. You don't have to be perfect. Your kids do not need perfect. They need you, and they need relationship with you. They don't need perfect from you. You're not going to get it all right, and that's okay. That's just fine. But stay in relationship with your kids and with the kids that you're caring for.
I think that's so neat what Tim Hathaway just said, Casey. Nobody has to be perfect, and let's face it, right about now, none of us is going to be perfect, except for you when we are putting together documents. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, real quick before we proceed, we've been getting some really cool stuff into the ECETP mailbox that I just kind of like to go over real quick. And again, please keep this stuff coming. Please keep sharing. Please keep letting us talk about your awesome ideas. But this one provider wanted to point out there's a series of coloring books, and I'm not sure what the overall series is called, but they wanted us to share with everybody that there's one in a series of these coloring books. It's called Trinka and Sam Fighting the Big Virus. And then there's one called Trinka, Sam, and Littletown Work Together.
Trish, I think it's all actually one title. I think it's Trinka and Sam Fighting the Big Virus, Trinka, Sam, and Littletown Work Together. And I think the series of books is just called the Trinka and Sam series.
Thank you. I'm glad you read these emails closer than I do. But what I'm seeing right here is this provider says it's developed specifically for young children and their families to help talk about these experiences and feelings, they're going through with COVID-19. So as we're talking about all this communication and, how can we communicate with our children about this sort of thing, that's an awesome resource. Thank you so, so much for sharing that. And I can't really share the link on the screen right now, but if anyone does want more information on this, please email us in the mailbox, ecetp@albany.edu, and we will email you this information. But the Trinka and Sam, I guess, book series can be found or purchased through Piplo Productions. Not even going to try to spell it, but we will email you that information if you like. Just let us know in the mailbox.
Yeah.
And that is a really, really cool resource. I'm glad we shared that, Case.
It is. Actually, it's kind of ironic because I checked it out the other day. It had come across something I think my daughter had found maybe through like her school Google or something classroom. But I checked it out, and they're actually free. They're online, and there are other guides that go along with it. And I think there's a poster maybe also that goes with it. And the whole book is illustrated, and it can be colored, so it's a coloring book. And it really was a good story. And I didn't really have a chance to check out the others in this series, but they're all there on piploproductions.com, and you can just read them right there. It was really neat to see.
Yeah, fantastic suggestion. Thank you so much. Keep sharing, please.
Yes, please do. Speaking of sharing, Trish, we got another message of hope that was sent to us earlier that we'd like to share, and this one's from Jose, who is a borough director. And Jose wrote, "COVID-19 has changed our way of lives. You are teachers, psychologists, medics, and the world to many of the children you serve. You all do an amazing job in teaching, caring for, maintaining, feeding, and providing a safe place for the children you care for. This new norm comes with its challenges. You are appreciated. Continue to be safe."
He says something in his statement, Jose. He says a couple of things that I'd like to talk about. He's recognizing the way that this current pandemic is really changing everything for us, and a few other people, Maria said this earlier, the child care providers, the early childhood educators in our audience tonight are the ones that are really keeping any sense of normal that children have. You guys are the ones that are doing it. And for that, we appreciate you. And we really, as Jose says, just hope that you continue to be safe through the crazy efforts, the extreme efforts and extraordinary efforts, I should say, that you are taking to stay safe right now. And that term, new norm, the new normal, when you think about it, we've got new schedules, we've got new routines, new guidelines, seemingly every day. And as we know, early childhood educators know that one thing children want from you is consistency. They want those predictable routines. They tend to thrive with them. And they also need really plenty of opportunities for play. But in these new times, how do you do that? What are some activities that you can do with children during our new normal? We did talk to some experts about that. We also talked to some providers and a regulator, a new friend of ours named David Harvey Bone, who had some really cool insights. And after we hear about that, these new normal kind of activities, we're going to hear from Robin Beller. Robin is the Long Island Regional Office Manager, and she had a really, really great message of hope that we want to share with you guys too. But let's take a look first at some ideas for new activities.
What do you like to do? Do you like to bake? Bake with your kids. Go for walks in isolated areas. Maybe you can have a scavenger hunt. Let's look for how many rocks we can find, or let's look for how many red cars we can find, depending on where you live. Make signs for your neighbors when you walk by their house saying hello. Draw, paint. If you live in the country or a place where you can, fly a kite together, read together, do puzzles.
I had mentioned murals on sidewalks, and I'm seeing a lot of those in the neighborhoods around me, where different kids will go outside at different times and add to the mural, which is kind of cool because there's this whole physical distance kind of idea around it, but then you can see the full picture come together, where together we kind of created this thing, even though we're being separated by this space right now.
I feel like right now more than ever, it's like people are really coming together, working together. It's amazing to see every day that a center opens their doors. It brings the consistency, and it brings the love to the children, and it helps with allowing the essential workers to serve the community. So it all ties hand in hand.
We have I don't want to say, I guess 55 and over retirement community apartment complex next door. So the kids have been making a lot of different posters and, just keeping them happy and kind of taking walks over and slipping different things under the door, different cards, and just, we're thinking of you, and they wave through the windows. So that's been nice too.
I know of centers that aren't open that are still communicating with their families, that are still, they have Facebook pages, that they have daily reading activities. I have, there's a center, E-Bureau, to be exact. They have every week, or every day, I'm sorry, a classroom is assigned to post an activity for the children. I mean, they're actually going out and communicating with the families on a weekly basis, So
we bake, we implement our activities, experiment with different STEM activities on a regular basis.
So I oversee school age programs, and a lot of the school age programs during this time have been doing several things. I have programs that actually do arts and crafts hours, where they go onto Facebook and they host arts and crafts hours or science activities. They do exercises. They provide lunches, snacks, dinner for these families in need, because they're not in school, so they're not getting these meals. And it's pretty amazing what they're doing with what they have to help support the community and help support the children.
One important thing at home and in childcare too is set up a cozy retreat if you don't already have one. A place where when they're feeling a little overwhelmed, they can go to. Older kids might go to their rooms, but little guys might want to just have a little section where they can get on a soft pillow and find a comfy little way to sit, and a little stuffy that makes them feel secure.
But if we can get back to thinking about what does this child need, what's the appropriate response to that, then it becomes, I don't have to do the stuff with Play-Doh. The child is going to do what they need to with that material.
But what I want you to remember is that there are so many ordinary things that you're already doing that can be wonderful.
Hi, I'm Robin Beller from the Long Island Regional Office. I wanted to take this opportunity to let you know our entire team of supervisors, licensors, registrars, and fire safety staff are here to support you through this challenging time. We are grateful to you and your staff for your extraordinary dedication for children and their families. This challenge is big, and together we are bigger than it. We will get through this. Childcare has always been important to keep New York working, and now more than ever, you are helping to keep New York alive. But please, stay safe, stay healthy, and know how important you are. Thank you.
That was a really terrific message, and it was really heartfelt, I think, and she brings up a very important point, Casey. You know, childcare providers right now really are keeping New York alive. I mean, right now you guys are probably one of the most essential services, and I'm really glad that you're getting to hear the appreciation and the support that everybody feels for you, because I know right now, you know, you're probably like us trying to figure out the new normal. So definitely one thing that we wanted to get across right now is what an amazing job you're doing and how grateful we all are for the work that you do. And I'm even more grateful because you guys are terrific with getting in touch with the mailbox, ECETP@albany.edu. I had to think about that for a minute, Casey. Couple more to go through here, if you don't mind. Casey, I don't mean to cut you off, but this program is doing bi-weekly parking lot parades. How cool is that? And, you know, we've heard from a couple of you, you know, we had talked before about, you know, the CDC guidelines, all the guidance right now. You really have to cancel kind of those big group activities, those kind of events you may have had planned, maybe postpone them, put them off, or get really creative like this program. They're having a virtual pre-K prom at the end of May, or pre-K graduations in this program. That's going to be at the end of June. Congratulations to you both. I hope it goes really well. And
You know,
please,
Trish,
you know, go ahead, Kay, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, Trish, you know, these are some really great ways to let children experience some of these really important life milestones in a safe way so they don't lose out on those memories. You and I were talking about, you know, these memories of really things that are going to stick with children. And, you know, these are great ways to let children still have those memories. So creative, so great, such great ideas.
So thank you to everybody for that. Again, I have always said you guys are the most creative and the expert at what you do. Thanks for sharing that with everybody. We want to talk, though, about kind of, you know, you've been communicating with children appropriately, you're following your schedule, you're giving them that stability they need and they crave, you're really engaging in these activities to try to keep their minds, you know, and bodies active. But sometimes, no matter what you do, no matter the best efforts you make, and this was true before this pandemic, and it will be true after this pandemic, sometimes, no matter what we do, children will still feel stress. So how do we handle that? How can we help them? What do we look for? How do we know that children are starting to get stressed and that we need to help them and offer them some support? Well, thankfully, we have awesome experts that we were able to talk to, and they gave us some really cool advice on signs to look for. So we'll get that queued up for us.
Kids that are dealing with a lot of traumatic stress are going to be off a little bit, right? So their typical responses are going to be a little bit different, and some kids are that's going to be a great big difference, and other kids it's going to be a smaller difference. But I think any time that we see a change in a child's behavior, there should be a little flag that goes up in our head that says, pay close attention, because that's a signal that something is different for that child, that they're feeling stress, that they're feeling something different. So they're acting in a different way. All behavior is caused, so they're feeling that and they're reacting in a different way. They're behaving in a different way.
For you as an adult, when you're watching children that you know and that you have a relationship with, you're looking for anything in them that might seem just a little off. The more time we spend with children, the more we get to know kind of what normal in a room with them feels like. And if that normal in a room feels different, then we start to pay attention and think, oh, wait a minute, this isn't okay. I think they're either tired, they're not feeling well, or they're starting to feel some stress and anxiety, and we need to kind of do something about that.
When our children are very small, they won't be able to say, I'm anxious or nervous or stressed. But what they might say is, my belly hurts or I have a headache. And as they get older, they may like to spend a lot of time by themselves. They seem very monotone in their disposition.
When children are struggling with stress or trauma, you'll notice if your center is open that their behavior has changed. If their parents are working through this crisis, they're exhausted, stressed, and the children are probably more needy than ever. Their coping mechanisms may look like tantrums, being extra stubborn, or just not acting the way they normally do. As I mentioned, they will have difficulty with separation and transitions. Give them that opportunity. Allow for that to happen. Be there to comfort them. Nap time may suddenly become more difficult than before. And for some children, they may disassociate and have difficulty engaging with their peers. And others may show signs of regressive behavior. At home, you might find there to be signs of fear and anxiety, fear of going to bed. They might start wetting the bed, even though they stopped doing that a long time ago. Nightmares, thumb sucking, and also disassociating and not engaging in play at home the way they used to. Children can also become extra clingy, needing more hugs and kisses than usual, and our job is to give it to them. That's what they need. They're letting us know what they need. And young children might not be able to express their anxiety verbally. They're going to use their behavior. We need to be gentle.
You know, Trish, one of the things that really struck me on that was I think it was Joanne Trinkle who said, normal in a room.
That was interesting, wasn't it? Normal in a room.
Right. Well, I think that, that's really great advice to listen to because, children of different ages and at different developmental stages, they're going to express these feelings of anxiety in different ways. Like we heard, the littles aren't going to be able to tell us with their words what they're feeling. So they may say, I have a tummy ache or I have a headache. And the older children, they may regress. I know my daughter's spending a lot more time in her room. So I'm making sure for us, that's not the normal in a room in our house. So for me, I know then it's time for me to go in and do that little bit of check-in with her to say, hey, how are you feeling? What are you thinking about? What's going on? What can we do? And just have that little bit of an exchange just to make sure that she's still doing okay. So I really, really like that normal in a room. So, if we're starting to see some of these signs, Trish, the littles with the headaches and the tummy aches, or someone who's been potty trained is now bedwetting, or, children are just having those nightmares or they're withdrawing. What can we do? How can we help them? Our experts really had a lot of great guidance on this, on what we can try to do for them. So let's hear what they have to say.
If you start seeing signs primarily of anxiety in young children or even older children, your job is to really stay calm, give them space, and be very aware of the signals that they're sending you so that when they need your reassurance, you're there.
I would say if you're worried and you continue to be worried, there's no harm in asking for help. There's no harm in trying to figure out, should I be worried? So reaching out to try to get some support and some answers can maybe help reassure us to, I think it's okay. Or it can help reassure us that you were right. You should really be worried about this.
Try to bring out different ways where children can talk to you about their feelings. I love books. I love books. And if I can't find a book that shares a story that I want, you know what we do? We make up a book. And I love social stories. I think social stories are really important and can really help children unfold their feelings. I love puppets. I love puppets, and maybe I don't have access to fancy puppets, but I do have access to some socks and some magic markers. We can make the puppets come alive, and children can start to help us understand what's happening in their bellies.
The most important thing we can really do for kids is to listen. Listen to their signals and listen to what they have to say. And if you are co-parenting, discuss this with your partner so that your responses are consistent, because children who've experienced trauma rely on consistency. It equals safety for them. Use your family like a security blanket for your children. Wrap them up in family closeness and make sure your children have lots of family time. During times of stress and change, spend more time with your children, playing games, reading to them, or just holding them close.
Dr. Pointer talked about something there, Casey, that I know you want to go back to. I'm even going to give you a minute to unmute before I before I jump in on you like I have been all night.
Well, I'm trying to start my video. It keeps bouncing back and forth, so I found myself. Here I am. Yeah, she talked about social stories, and we just wanted to make sure that, we give a little description for those. They're short stories that help children navigate certain situations or events or activities that, they include information for the child so that they know what to expect. So if you have a child that maybe is feeling a little bit anxious about a trip to the doctor, you could talk to them about, what happens before we go to the doctor. So we're going to get up, we're going to eat breakfast, we're going to put our shoes on, we're going to get in the car, we're going to go to the doctor. And then you describe maybe what's going to happen during the visit. We're going to enter the building, check in with the receptionist, we'll go to an exam room, we may get our temperature taken, height and weight. And then you talk about what will happen afterward. And so say, maybe after we're done, we'll go run a couple of errands and then we'll get some ice cream. And this really gives the child the opportunity to see and hear what's going to happen, what to expect. So it takes some of that fear and anxiety away from them. And it also gives them a chance to really ask any questions that they have. Mommy, will it hurt when he takes my temperature? And then you can talk about that, because those are things that the children are thinking about that are causing them that fear and that anxiety. So giving them the opportunity to, hear about what to expect and ask those questions can be very helpful. And, social stories, they're really a great way to help the children process what's going on now. So maybe, using social stories right now could be helpful. Maybe a child's having anxiety about people wearing masks. So maybe you can make up a social story about how we're wearing these masks to keep us safe. And this is what I look like without my mask. And this is what I look like with my mask. And then giving them the opportunity to, ask those questions. Or maybe you could write a social story with them about community helpers and all the great work that the essential workers are doing right now.
That's a really great way to get kids to kind of process what's going. That's a great suggestion, Casey.
Thank you. And, if you are looking for examples of short story or social stories, I know there are some out there. You can find those on in the pyramid model section of the New York State Early Childhood Advisory Council's website. Their address can be found in your handouts. That's the Early Childhood Advisory Council website. And, and if you can't find a social story for something you're trying to talk about, it's great to make up your own. Involve the child in the process that really connects with them.
Absolutely. It gets some ownership and gets the child to really kind of see the story from their perspective. You had also sent me an email a while ago about, and I think it was NYECAC, it was for book nooks. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Sure. A book nook is an easy to follow guide that adults use alongside specific children's books to really help children learn some social emotional skills through hands-on activities. There are book nooks for specific age groups. I know that ECAC has some on their website. Some are for infants and toddlers, and then some are for preschoolers. You know, this situation is causing a lot of fear and stress for some of our children. So one book nook I know that they have on their website that everybody might find helpful, and it's geared for preschoolers, and it's for the book called Once I Was Very, Very Scared. It's a great book. It's got lots of animals, lots of great illustrations. And so there's a couple of really good hands-on activities that go with it. And the book nook also tells you, you know, what social emotional skills that you're working on. There's goals and objectives. It gives you a brief description of the book. So it's really this easy to use guide. I recommend checking them out. They can be very helpful.
And in fact, Case, both those Book Nook resources and the social story ideas are on the ECAC website. And that is in the handouts for this. By the way, if anyone doesn't or didn't get a chance to get the handouts, these are still going to be available on your My Activities page. You just want to go to the tab where you found the link for this class, and the participant materials are still going to be up there for you if you weren't able to download them before. Casey, let's talk a little bit more about signs, but maybe not in the children, maybe in ourselves.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you know I'm looking for signs in my daughter, but I'm feeling the stress as well, and I know you're feeling stressed too. I know we talk on the phone a lot. We're there for each other when we need that little pick-me-up and that little time to vent and get some of that stress out. So, you know, there's that expression, Trish, that, you know, when you're on the airplane, you have to put your own oxygen mask on before you help others put theirs on. You've heard that, right?
Yeah, and I try to get you to do it more often. You need to listen to the self-care section, Casey.
I'm trying, Trish. You know, the reason that they say that is because if you don't take care of yourself first by putting that oxygen mask on, then you won't be able to take care of others and help them put their oxygen masks on. So self-care or self-stewardship, now that's the act of taking care of you, taking care of yourself so that you have that energy to take care of others. Our experts had some really great advice on this, so we're going to hear some of that, and then we're going to hear Paulette Wally. She's the Rochester Regional Office Manager. She sat down with us and gave us a message of hope. So we'll hear that expert advice and then that message of hope.
A lot of caregivers think it's selfish to take care of yourselves when you're taking care of kids. But if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be capable to kind of, you know, respond and nurture and care if you're stressed out or you're at the edge. So for us, I think it's about knowing the state you need to be in to be helpful, caring, effective. How do you keep yourself or manage that state for yourself?
We get in the way of putting ourselves first because we feel like, how can I do that if I could take care of everyone else? And my question simply is, if you don't do it, how effective are you going to be at taking care of everyone else? And so it begins with a promise, a commitment to self, that no matter what I need to do, I'm going to make sure that I am making myself a priority.
Take care of yourself, especially in times like this. Go for walks if you can. Exercise if you have to stay in. Maintain your social contacts.
And in the days and times like this, where we think about our lives as being a picture of our favorite drink, everything that you do is pouring out of you. Everything that you do for your work, for navigating these situations that we're all in now, it's all pouring out of you. But my question is, what if there is nothing in here? If there's nothing in here, how are you going to be at homeschooling? Which you didn't ask for this role, but how are you going to be if your picture is empty? How are you going to be with your 11-year-old who's really not dealing with some of these adjustments really well? I would like to ask you just to make yourself first so that you have the energy to be able to support the others in your environment.
So it's so important for us to care for ourselves, build our resilience so that we are in control of ourselves and can role model and help children learn how to tolerate their own uneasy feelings and eventually to take charge of themselves on their own. But we can't do that unless we're feeling okay. So it starts with us. It always, whether you're an educator or a parent, it starts with you.
Hi, I'm Paulette Wally with the Rochester Regional Office for the Division for Childcare. I am the Regional Manager. Greetings and thank you for attending tonight's webcast. I want to thank each and every one of you for what you're doing caring for our children during this crisis. By now, I am sure you have heard from each of your regulators, your licensor, registrar, and your CCR&Rs on a regular basis. It is our goal to continue to provide support to you as you care for our children and families. My message of hope to each of you, which is relevant for the weather as well as this crisis, is if you can't find the sunshine, be the sunshine.
Thanks to Paula for that very nice message of hope, that sunshine that keeps me going. Right now, we'd like to take a minute for a poll. We want to hear from all of you about what strategies you use when you're experiencing stress. Do you breathe? Do you take time to exercise? Do you call a friend? I know Trish and I said earlier, we call each other all the time. Do you engage in self-talk? Do you take time for some alone time? Do you read? Do you take a nap? Do you just scream or cry, or do you do something else? So go ahead and click on which option on that poll best describes what you do when you're feeling stressed, and then you go down to the bottom there and click that submit button, and we're going to hopefully hear from all of you. And
we are. In fact, people are responding, and I see a lot of you are remembering to click that submit button. That's really awesome. Let me click on the status a little bit so we can talk about the kinds of things we're all talking about. Hang on a second, it's closing up on me. It seems like quite a few of us do breathing exercises, and I'm just kind of scrolling through here. Hang on a second.
Well, that's fun because we're going to get to some breathing exercises in a little bit. So
yeah, in fact, that's a really great thing that we were able to include. Yeah, I'm getting my little spinning circle here, but it's telling me, a second, see if we can pull up a bar graph. But it seems, Casey, that a lot of people are actually liking alone time. Seems like a lot of people are reading quite a bit.
I try to take a nap, but I have a puppy that hardly ever works out.
It seems like, yeah, and I'm still trying to scroll through our, I think everybody's filling it out, so it's giving me a hard time reading it all here, but yeah, so exercise is very popular. Calling a friend seems to be very popular with us. 14% of you call a friend. Folks are still going. What else is popular? I can't really share this all with you. Luckily, not a lot of you are having to scream and cry right now. Self-talk. I want to mention that for a minute. We tend to kind of laugh at that sort of thing. I talk to my pets. I talk to my plants. I think it's important that we still feel connected with someone. Don't you, Casey?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know for myself, sometimes you just got those thoughts running through your head, and if you get them out, then you can let them go and you can move on. So I find that to be really helpful.
Now, I think we're going to probably move on. Let me see if I can close our poll.
Thank you to everybody for filling us in on what you do when you're feeling stressed and submitting those answers to us.
And in fact, we still have about 5 minutes, so we still are collecting those results. Feel free to keep submitting those results, and I'm just gonna, there we go, get past our poll slide. But it's just great to know, I think, that a lot of you are doing things for yourselves. You are, really thinking about what you can do to kind of be present and be the best you can be for the children and families that you're working with. I think that's the main point, right, Casey?
Absolutely.
Let's talk now about two of those self-care or self-stewardship self-stewardship techniques Dr. Pointer mentioned, and those are breathing. And we're going to watch a video right now where we're going to hear more about that. right back after this.
And so one of the things that you and I can do as we try to practice greater self-stewardship is pay intentional attention to your breathing. And so nice deep breaths in and nice deep breaths out. Nice deep breaths in and nice deep breaths out. One of the great things about breathing strategies is they can work for everyone in your home. Everybody in the house needs to breathe. And it is a great calm down technique.
All right, so I invite you to just settle in your chair. If it's okay with you, you can close your eyes. And just feel your feet on the floor. And just be here right now, knowing there's nowhere to go or nothing to do. And I invite you now just to notice your breath. Maybe at the area of your nostrils, maybe your chest, maybe your belly. And just notice how the breath goes in and out, just in its own calm rhythm. And just easily breathe in and breathe out. And when your mind starts to wander, that's okay. Just bring it back to your breath, wherever you notice it the most for you. Knowing that that's just what our mind does. And you can silently say to yourself, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. Just keeping your attention on your breath. It's breathing in, breathing out. So as we bring this breath awareness practice to a close, know that your breath is always with you. You can rely on your breathing at any time. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and return back to the room.
And for me, mindfulness just means focus. Focus. Doesn't mean I can get rid of all of the extra stuff that is around me. It just means that I'm going to focus. And so there's an activity called thinking in categories. What happens is you're just supposed to get nice and still, nice and comfortable as you can, and you try to just get in your mind categories. So get your mind nice and clear, and draw a line down your mind. And when you're doing the thinking in categories exercise, you want to choose 2 categories. So for example, I'm going to do fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables. And so as I think in categories, I do a nice deep breathing exercise first, and then I start to go. Bananas, cucumbers, cherries, asparagus, grapes, onions. And so what if I keep repeating the same things once or twice? That's okay. And so what if I could hear my husband slamming the cabinet door down when I was trying to do my mindful? It's okay. You just keep going. And what it should do is help you get more present, help you become more centered. Your 5-year-old is still at the table having a fit because he doesn't want peanut butter and jelly today. They're still there. But you might have a bit more energy to deal with that because you practice a strategy that just helps you become more present. And when we're present, we can make better decisions. When we're being more conscientious about nice deep breaths, we can fully interact with life the way we need to. So it's just 2 simple things we can all think more about. Breathing, paying careful attention to your breathing, and then mindfulness exercises, which they're an abundant, there's so many different ways to do it, and it is a great skill that all the family can practice. My husband is a police officer, and I tried this one with him called Trace Your Foot. So it's just, you have your foot, and when you're having a moment where you just need to pull it together, I say trace your foot. So you just in your mind, you just trace your foot. I call them my pocket strategies.
Pocket strategies. What do we think about that, Casey?
Yeah, they're great. And in addition to Dr. Pointer's pocket strategies, I'd like to offer up one of our own mindfulness strategies that works for me. And I call it calming quotes. So you have a few special phrases or sayings that are meaningful to you or close to your heart to have at the ready so that you can repeat them in your head as a mantra when you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed. And maybe you could ask the families that you're working with for suggestions of important phrases to them and their children that can be shared so that with the child, so you can strengthen those connections between the home and the program. Now, we got a message of hope from Lynette, a registration supervisor, and we thought that these might help some people as calming quotes. So Lynette wrote, "There's always light at the end of the tunnel. This too shall pass. Continue to be vigilant. We are in this together." So we'd like to thank Lynette for those messages of hope. And then as you know, we wrap up this section, Trish, on self-care, we wanted to share these words from Andrea, who's a supervising early childhood consultant. And Andrea wrote, "Take time to reflect on what's wonderful in your life. Take the time to look at the beauty around you. That may mean looking out the window to see trees and flowers blooming. Maybe look up and receive the warmth of the sun's rays. How about sipping some tea while listening to the patter of rain? Embracing the small yet powerful signs of life and beauty around you. Carve out some me time to meditate, read, exercise, or simply be still. You make a difference. Keep being wonderful. Keep providing quality childcare and never, ever give up or give in."
Our thanks to Andrea. That's a really beautiful statement. Take that me time. Keep providing this quality care. We did talk a little bit about resources. You may be wondering about resources in your own area that could really help your families connect with those food, academic, or financial kind of supports and supplies they need. We did talk to regulator Angela Ennis and Albany Regional Office Manager Sarah Beyer-Ellis about how the Office of Children and Family Services, local child care resource and referral agencies, and other community organizations are going to be able to help. Let's take a look at this clip.
Well, we've worked closely with a lot of our local child care resource and referral agencies who have also been able to provide supplies, but not only supplies, but support and connections for providers in the community to assist them and to assist OCFS in being able to distribute supplies that are needed, to continue to help parents find childcare for essential workers that their daycares may have closed.
So unfortunately, I'm unable to go into majority of my programs because they are in schools and schools are currently closed. So I continue to reach out to my programs weekly just to ask them how they are, if they have questions. Most of them are not working right now, but I still feel that it's necessary for me to reach out to them just to tell them that I'm supporting them. I was a school age director myself, so I know how stressful this time is and how hard it must be for them to not be able to be with the children directly. So I just want them to know that I'm here to support them if they have questions, if they have concerns, even if they just need to vent about something, I'm here to support them.
OCFS has really been striving to make an effort to support and provide providers in the community to continue to provide service to essential workers and children. And through doing that, we've done various programs. We were able to acquire diapers and get those to programs, along with hand sanitizer and some PPE equipment. And we continue working not only to procure supplies, but also to work with local grocery stores and different programs so that providers are able to obtain milk and food and different resources that are needed to continue the programming for children.
where I work, we are actually asking programs directly what sorts of things they need: gloves, sanitizer, masks, diapers, anything. And we are looking to find those things for these programs and help provide them so they can pick them up so that they have the things that they need.
We also have a link on our website to the National Diaper Bank for people who are in need of diapers and supplies. And I do know that several of the local school districts, especially in Schenectady and Albany, are continuing to provide meals to children, even though the schools are currently closed.
There is always things changing, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly. It can be really overwhelming. OCFS has done a wonderful job with keeping us up to date. And in return, I'm making sure that I'm sending any Dear Provider letters, any memos, any changes directly to the program when I get them, even if it means sending several emails a day, because I think it's important for them to understand and recognize these changes, even if they're not open, because majority of the programs unfortunately are not open right now, but to just make sure they have that information. If they have questions, if they don't understand it, that I'm here to explain it to them and make sure that they have what they need to meet those requirements.
Thank you so much to everyone who has continued to work so hard and done everything possible for the best interests of children during this time. We truly appreciate your efforts. We are here to support you. Our office may be closed, but we are able to be reached at any time that there's questions or concerns, and we'll continue to support the provider community and the children in any way possible.
And our thank yous to both Angela and Sarah for those messages and for that information. I do want to just say that we want to be sure to visit the OCFS website frequently, remember, for all updates and information. And as they said, if you do have questions or need support, reach out to your regulator. Call them, email them. I'm going to suggest you give them your email, because then you're going to get that most current information from OCFS in the most timely fashion. Before we do move on, Case, I know you have a real quick couple of things from the mailbox that we want to talk about in terms of resources.
I do. We've gotten a couple of ideas. One program has deployed iPads to the children and families that expressed a need for them, so they have those for the remainder of the school year. Another person wrote in about food pantries, how they can provide food to families that have a place to live but may not have enough food, and they suggest try searching food pantry and then putting your town, city, or county. We heard about the diaper exchange, but another person says you could dial 211 or try on the internet 211.org if you're in need of diapers. We've got, you want to make sure that the families you serve are doing well emotionally, and you can get some resources from the New York State Office of Mental Health. And then you also want to be able to provide parents with resources for families, and so you can find those at nysparenting.org. And then they also someone pointed out that many internet and cable companies are currently providing free services to homes where children reside for homeschooling, so they suggest you try to Google or search for your internet or cable company website. I think, Trish, you have a couple more?
In fact, yeah, the National Center for Pyramid Model Innovations, Google NCPMI. They've got an emergency resource page, has posters, tip sheets, awesome info for not only professionals but families too. It's updated every week. Also, federal CARES funding, very important. Programs and parents can both apply right online for funds, for supplies, child care payments, for essential workers. Your CCR&Rs, your child care resource and referrals, are the ones contracted to implement these programs, and they're available to answer your questions, assist in the process. So you're still seeing the website on your screen. You want to visit there, not only for information, but a list of your CCR&Rs. Again, contact information is in your handouts for that. We really have covered an absolute ton of ground today. We are kind of out of time, which is shocking to no one with me. Your questions are super important to us. I know there's a lot that came into the mailbox. If we didn't get to it, someone will be following up with you in the next few days. Quick note on certificates. These are going to be processed when this training is over. Those are going to be available on your My Activities page of your ECETP account. Just want to give you a heads up that usually does take about 24 hours to process, to batch process. So you may want to check back in a day, but that's where you will find your certificate. What about video resources, Case?
Yeah, Trish, that's a question we get asked about all the time. Where can I see these wonderful videos that you've shown us during these trainings? So you can actually see those if you go to our YouTube channel. It's the Early Childhood Education and Training Program YouTube channel. You can find many of our resources that we've made. So go to YouTube and search ECETP and be sure to hit that subscribe button on the channel and then share it with your friends so you can all get this great information.
You know, Case, we do want to send a very special thanks, by the way, to everyone who took part. First, our experts, Joanne Trinkle, Tim Hathaway, Dr. Nefertiti Pointer, and Barbara Kaiser. So much awesome information. We're so grateful for their time. Thanks, too, as well, to all the OCFS staff who helped out, Janice Molnar, all of our regional office managers, the regulators, all your child care providers who shared your thoughts, your messages, your pictures, and thanks especially to everyone who took part in this tonight. And in your honor, we're going to go to one more video, provider appreciation video that Jim Hart mentioned at the beginning of our program.
Child care providers treat our children like seeds.
And now kindly pick it up and just gently pour it in.
Every day, providers nurture their budding creativity.
Share with your friends. Paint the whole thing.
Providers root them with love. Providers give them room to grow. Thank you for making a difference in the lives of children every day. Thank you for strengthening our communities. Thank you for your compassion and sustaining a brighter future. Happy Provider Appreciation Day.
Indeed. Happy Provider Appreciation Day. Thank you so much to everybody.
Indeed.
Screen share back up there. Sorry, Casey.
No worries, Trish. You know, we couldn't think of a better way to wrap up this training than to share a message of hope that we got from Julie, who's an assistant borough director. And she wrote, "Thank you for showing up every day. Thank you for lovingly and skillfully caring for the children of New York State. Thank you for being a source of happiness and stability and bringing a smile to the faces of the children in our communities. Your dedication, endurance, and tireless efforts are recognized and greatly appreciated. Each of you play an instrumental role in providing a stable and caring environment for the children we serve during this time of emotional stress. You are valued beyond measure. Wishing you hope, joy, and wellness. Thank you for all that you do. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay strong, keep being amazing."
Wonderful words to wrap up with, Casey. And we are all out of time, folks. Now is the end of our course. I do just want to mention a few things. There is no post-test for this evening's course. Some of you who are really familiar with this online platform might be used to some post-tests. There actually is not one for this course. We do really ask your participation, though, in filling out the participant reaction questionnaire. That's actually been emailed to all of you so that you can kind of really give us your feedback on not only this training, but what kinds of information you guys need in the future to help you keep doing the very awesome work that you are doing. And so with that, on behalf of myself, Trish Geary, my co-host Casey Becker, all of the Office of Children and Family Services, and all of our team at the Professional Development Program, we thank everyone for their time this evening, and we really do hope that you stay safe and stay amazing.
Thank you, everybody. Happy Provider Appreciation Day.
We've made great new relationships with families and children that we wouldn't have, had the opportunity to otherwise. So very grateful for that.
So I just want to say to school age programs, daycares, anyone who's providing care for children, we see you, we hear you, we support you, we love you. I come from this field. I know what it feels like. I know how difficult it probably is right now to not have that contact directly with the children. But the things that you're doing to still be in contact with these families and the children is so great. And I'm so proud of how we've all come together to make this difficult time easier. Again, I just want to make sure that you guys know we see, we hear, and we love you, and we're here to support you. I'm here to support all programs. I've been there. I know what it feels like. So we're here for you guys.
You know, together we can, you know, get through all of this.
There's this really cool response of human nature that's coming out. In the beginning of all of this, we heard a lot of like just tragedy and gloom and, oh no, it's going to be bad, and that whole negative thing. And I think now there's like, you know, kids creating like podcasts or little internet shows of like, what was good today, you know, those kind of ideas and opportunities, tapping into that creativity of what are we grateful for.
So proud to be a part of this region. I mean, it's amazing what the providers are doing. It's more than ever. We all need to stay together and just work together. And I'm just amazed, honestly.
The best part of my day is, you know, seeing how excited the children get to see those staff. We have consistent staff every day, so you know, we're all in this together, and everyone can feel it.
I feel like our childcare professionals have always felt not professional, and I think if we come away from here feeling like I am a teacher, I have an important role to play in society, that message is important to me, as too is the message of making sure we have a healthy village. We don't just need a village, we need the village to be healthy. So if those two things are conveyed, I would feel very good.
Stay strong, to try to meet every morning with a smile and know that each day is a step closer to getting back together.
As difficult as this is, your being here right now is really critical. And it's critical because you're keeping kids in relationship. Relationship is what ties us all together, right? So if the end goal is to get to a point either with this COVID thing that we're going through, or if it's to get through whatever trauma that child has faced in their life, what we have to do is we have to help kids see that. We have to help kids get a sense that there's a path there, and that we can do something together to move down that path. And your relationship is how you do that. It's about staying in relationship with that child. Thank you so much for being where you are with the children and the families that you are. They won't forget this. So thank you so much for that. Go get them. Go get them.
Providers, we just all need to hang in there and just keep working together. And when we do come back, when this all ends, we need to continue the way that what we're doing right now. We can continue doing that, because this is grade A, you know, this is grade A stuff. The love that we have that I'm seeing is, we need to carry it on when we do end up coming back together.
Know that we are thinking about each other. We're thinking about our, you know, kids that we can't be with, the families that, you know, we want to be back together with, and just, you know, let people know that we're out here with you and we're going to be back together soon.
If ever before you doubted the fact that you are needed to help us all as a society, I want you to remember you are worthy and you are enough. Sometimes we are called babysitters. Sometimes we're called childcare providers. I call you teacher, because someone who imparts knowledge to another one is a teacher. And when you teach a little one how to not poop in his diaper and put that in the toilet, you are a teacher. And so I want you to remember, you are worthy and you are enough. Teachers make every other profession possible. And right now, even in the midst of this COVID-19 crisis, you are helping a child find his occupation or her occupation. And I want you to remember that. We are going to get through this.
And one of the things that I have become very aware of is how the public and the world really has understood how important the work you do is as an early childhood educator and teachers, but also a new appreciation of doctors, nurses, people who work in the grocery store, the pharmacy, bus drivers, delivery people, mailmen. Everybody suddenly is being recognized as playing a really important role in the lives of one another. And this is a real opportunity to create a new reality, a reality where we suddenly understand, because I don't think we have for a very long time, that when we care about each other, that what we do makes a difference, and it not only affects us, but it affects everybody else, not only in our lives, but in the world.